Salutations readers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nkechi, and for today I'm going to talk about all the books that I did not finish reading in Q4 2024. Now, full disclosure, if you hear anything in the background, it's just my siblings playing a game because as I am recording, it is Christmas Day. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, that's fine. I also think Hanukkah, the first day of Hanukkah, is also today. So happy Hanukkah if you celebrate Hanukkah. And if you don't celebrate either of those holidays, then just happy holidays in general. I do know this video will be coming out maybe a few days after Christmas. So happy holidays just to everyone, honestly. So I am recording this video just a little bit early, but I figured might as well record it now because I don't think I'm going to DNF any more books. I'm pretty sure about that because honestly I've just been finishing my current reads for this quarter. I definitely felt I've been a little bit more ruthless honestly about not finishing books. If I really just don't think a book is for me, I'm ending up just straight up DNFing it quite hard too. Like I don't see myself coming back to it. There's some books I'm like, maybe I'll come back to it, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on it. But for the most part, I have a lot of books that I don't think I'm ever gonna come back to. Now, let's actually get into the stats. So first up, I did not finish reading 9 books, which is not a lot, but it's quite hefty. Series DNF'd, 0. There's not a single series I DNF'd. And number of 2024 releases and arcs, 6. 2/3 of the books that I did not finish reading this quarter were arcs, which makes sense because in this last bit of the quarter, I've been trying to focus more on like getting through like advanced listening copies from Macmillan Audio and any e-arcs I've been approved of through NetGalley. So I've been trying to prioritize those reads, so it won't be surprising that as I got to the end of the year, I'm like, okay, these ones are just not meant for me. I'm just not the target I'm not the target audience. Let me just not bother. So anyways, let's actually start getting into the categories. I will be going from ones I'm most likely to return to the least one, because the ones I'm least likely I want to say to the end because there's a lot of books. So we are starting off with Wrong Book, Wrong Time, and I only have one book, and that is My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due. This is the first book in the African Immortal series. I was reading this for Black Halloween. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite really in the mood for this story. I have heard good things about the African Immortal series, but I've also heard some other mixed things about it. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna really enjoy the series or not, but I was like, you know what? Not quite in the mind, not quite in the headspace for this story, so let me just put it down for now. I do want to come back into it. I don't know if I'll wait until next Black Halloween for that book, or I'll just read it whenever I feel like it. But I do want to try out this series because I have heard really good things about it. So yeah, we shall see. Next category is Never Say Never, and there's only one book on here, and it's pretty much just a repeat book from like previous quarter DNFs, and that is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. Yes, there's another Tananarive Due, and this is the same one. I got further into the audiobook for this one, but unfortunately I do think I have to put an indefinite pause in this book, which I'm calling is just a solid DNF because I'm just not in the headspace to absorb the story. It's just too dark and too heavy for me to be reading it. I don't know when I'll get back into it. I do own the audiobook, so chances of me coming back into it is pretty high, but also I do see myself probably just not coming back to it ever because I just don't know when I'll ever be able to just be in the headspace for this story. I don't know. Maybe this is just one that I'm just gonna have to miss out on, unfortunately. Even though I have really good things about it, but geez, it's just dark and heavy and sad and emotional. I'm like, I just can't. Now, we're going on to Saved by the DNF. This is where the bulk of all my DNFs are. So let's start with the DNF with one of the books that I DNF'd earlier in the quarter to the most recent. So first up, I do have The Naming Song by somebody. I don't remember the author's name. I did not write the author's name down because I do not care. This was an advanced listening copy from Macmillan Audio. I generally was just bored by this audiobook. I'm very disappointed about it too because this one was marketed to me as like for fans of like Hayao Miyazaki, Guillermo del Toro and stuff, like whimsical fantasy. And I've seen some reviews about people saying like, it's whimsical and fantastical and all that stuff. And while there is some sort of like whimsy and fantasy, and it's definitely fantastical for sure, I just wasn't really a fan of like the way it was written. I was not a fan of the writing. I don't think the writing is bad. I just wasn't a fan of it. It just didn't click for me, and I didn't care for the characters. Especially since, honestly, especially the main character, I think is unnamed. And I don't know, I just was not very much intrigued by the world at all. I just found it to be boring. And I didn't want to just continue listening on to the audiobook, hoping it just gets better. I'm like, no, there's just no point. I'm just gonna leave it alone. If any of y'all have read it and enjoyed it, please let me know your thoughts about it down below in the comments because I don't get this book at all. Next up is Devils Kill Devils by Johnny Compton. This one I do remember the author name because this is the same author as The Spite House, which I read for Black Queen. And I tried to read Devils Kills Devils because Magnolia Audio was kindly enough to send me an advanced listening copy. And I have to say, this was not good to me. I was so disappointed. I was like, what are we doing here? And I was not curious enough to continue on reading, okay? I read The Spy House. That was actually really good. It wasn't like great or anything or like my new favorite, but like it was a really good debut novel. And then I'm reading this sophomore novel of his and I'm like, this is just not good. I don't like it. I don't like the way he wrote the story. I didn't care. I didn't get very far into it either, but honestly, I was not intrigued. The intrigue was very, very low. So that one wasn't very much hard enough and very much disappointing for me, honestly. Next up, Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. This was a book I was trying to read for Suki's readathon in honor of Mama Bowties, Jesse's mother. And this one was just, there was just something that's just really icky about it that seemed, it's interesting because it's the first book in a duology. It's young adult historical fiction. We have the main character who, for some reason, her family, there's like some sort of expectation that she's gonna one day wed her cousin, which is weird. Even though, based on what I've heard about this duology, is that's not who she's going to end up with, but I still find it weird that that's something that's supposed to be expected. Like, ew, no, I'm not here for any form of incest, okay? I don't care. I don't want it. So I just said yeah, I'm done. So I did DNF it quite quickly. Very, very quickly. So, yeah, that's all I have on that Anatomy. And I don't know if I'll check out anything else by this author, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Next up, Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed. Ava Reed's latest work in 2024. This one was an anticipated release because it's a Macbeth retelling. We're following Lady Macbeth, and unfortunately, this one was just a miss. I think I got to like 55% of the way through. This was just not it for me. Unfortunately, no. Maybe I just know too much about the original play. Maybe if you don't know much about the original play, you might enjoy this one, but for me, this was a miss. Next up is Xianlinde. I'm not totally sure how to pronounce this book. It's by Darcy Literal Badger, and it's the prequel to A Lat's Away. This one I was actually a little bit disappointed by DNFing because I was also reading this book for, I think, Suki's readathon as well. And unfortunately, I wasn't quite a fan of this one either. The writing was fine, but I just didn't care, honestly, about where the plot's gonna go or the characters, which is very sad because I think we're following A Lat's Away's great-grandmother, or was it great-great-grandmother? I don't know, some great-grandmother. And I was actually really intrigued about reading the prequel to A Lat's Away since I really enjoyed it last year. But this one, honestly, nah, not a fan of this one, unfortunately. It's just a miss for me. I don't think it's bad or anything. The audiobook is fine because I was reading it via audio, but other than that, I don't care for this one, unfortunately, which was really sad. I was actually kind of excited to read it, but it's a miss. Next up is Blood of the Old Kings by Sung Il Kim. That's translated by Anton Her. This is originally translated from Korean to English, and I did get an arc from Tor, and unfortunately, it's also a hard miss for me. It's very sad, honestly, because it's actually supposed to be like a setup to like a first book in a trilogy, I think, and I'm hoping Tor does translate the other two books in the series. Unfortunately, I just was not a fan of the writing. And I'm not totally sure if it's the writing of the author or is it the translation. I'm not totally sure which is the problem, but definitely the writing style in of itself was just a hard miss. Also, I was not really interested in following with the three characters because the story is split into 3 POVs. I was not very much curious about any of them. I found no intrigue with any of those characters. And I did not want to keep reading that arc because it was just taking me so long. And I felt like I was just getting a reading slump trying to read that book. And thankfully I just DNF'd. I was like, look, if there's just books that you continue reading, whether it's an arc, a library book, or something from your own TBR, if you feel like you're going to a reading slump, put the damn book down, okay? Put it down. All right? I am not going to lose my reading momentum over a book that I quote-unquote have to read. You know what I mean? So I just put the book down and I just give my DNF review on NetGalley, being like, yeah, this is just not for me. I am not the target audience. I thought I would be. Unfortunately, this is just not it for me. It just read more, like it reminded me of classic fantasy, even though I've never really, I was trying to say never, and that's actually not true. I have read a classic fantasy book before. But as far as like classic fantasy, I'm not quite a fan of classic fantasy tropes, honestly. Sometimes I am, but this one was just a miss. could not care for it, honestly. I just can't. And then last but not least, I did DNF Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Pornick. This is a YA fantasy novel. It's a standalone. It's also a debut novel. I do have it still physically with me, but it's in my bag of books that I'm unhauling, actually, because I do own it physically, because I did buy it, because also I really like the cover. And this one's also Polish-inspired fantasy. And unfortunately, I was just not a fan of this one. I am currently filming a vlog that has this book in it, so I don't want to say too much, but I will have to say my reading experience was a major part of me just straight up DNFing the book, because I did try to read it like a hybrid read since I wasn't familiar how to pronounce Polish names and places. And unfortunately, the audiobook and the physical book were not matching, which I found that to be quite infuriating. I don't like it when the physical and the audio do not match. Like, you can easily tell if you're just following along that there are sentences that were taken out in the physical copy and in the sentences that were probably added as well. That's not, like, it just didn't match. And I'm like, why? Oh my gosh. I hate that. I truly hate that. And I didn't care enough to continue reading anyways. I just got bored. So yeah, that was my most recent DNFs of the year. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the books that I did not finish reading this quarter, and just honestly for the year. I will be having a full-on DNF wrap-up kind of thing in my year in reading review video, pretty much all the stats and stuff, so that'll be a video coming up pretty soon, most likely in January. But I have to say though, I definitely was a lot more ruthless as far as like books that I have been, where I felt like I was obligated to read. But honestly, sometimes if something does just not work for me, I'm just gonna have to be like, nah, deuces, okay? Like, I just have to say deuces. Sometimes I'm just like, I request and I get approved of things, but then I find out that I'm not really the target audience. Or the book is just not good and I don't want to keep reading it because I don't want to suffer. But, you know, I tried with these arcs and new releases trying to see what works, and I've learned quite quickly that there's a lot that does not work for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So y'all let me know in the comments, what were some books that y'all did not finish? What were some books that you're like, no, I am not taking these books into 2025. I refuse. You know, what are those books for you? I am so curious. And if you also feel like maybe feel inclined, maybe let me know in the comments why you DNF the books. Or maybe you put them on pause and hopefully you'll get into them later. Like, I don't know. I'm very curious. Just let me know about the books that y'all did not finish. Okay? Okay. Anyways, thank you all again for coming to this video. Like the video if you like it, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you want to, and if you made it this far into the video, you're not totally sure what to say, but you want to leave me an emoji to let me know you're here, always give me the X emoji or the person crossing their arms like this emoji. You know, always let me know that, hey, you feel free to DNF, okay? Life is too short. We can't be continue reading books that just don't work for us, okay? Okay. Anyways, thank you all again for coming to this video, and I hope to see you on my next one. Bye.